Hello class. In the last video we looked at just sort of opening this image from SketchUp in Photoshop, which was, should be no problem at all, and then really just searching for a background image and some keys to choosing a good one. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to take this image and get it into the background image. And so what I need to do first is I'm going to sit here and I have to basically Photoshop, if in the simplest format, is a method of selecting pixels and then editing them. And so what we really need to do is we need to select the right pixels, and we'll copy them here and paste them into the other image, and we'll follow up with other videos on how to edit those pixels and make it look even better. There'll be a lot of work to do, but essentially this one's about selecting. There's lots of ways to select, and the way I'm going to do it here is it's the more simple the color, typically, usually the easier it is to select. So it's going to be really easy for me to select the white area and the green area, as opposed to this brickwork, which has a lot of texture and even the siding and things like that. Fortunately, there's a little trick in Photoshop where you can reverse your selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select the parts I don't want first. So I'll show you how to do that in detail here in a second. I'm going to select the parts I don't want and then say, hey, okay, that's what I don't want. I'm going to tell Photoshop I don't want it, and so it'll give me what I want. Right, so that makes sense. And so there's lots of ways of selecting. They're all up in here. I'm sure I reviewed some in class, but I'm going to use the magic wand, which looks like this. If you have quick select, if this is the icon that you have here, I'm just going to go here. You just click and hold. That's what, I've got my mouse button down, and I can click on magic wand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by clicking on the white area, and you can see this little train sort of dotted line that's going around. That means I have that area selected, which is the area I don't want. But I'm going to keep selecting areas I don't want. And I can do multiple areas by either clicking the Add Selection Set here, or I can also, for safety, hold down Shift on my keyboard to add more areas. So I don't want that area back there. I'm going to select that part here. And I don't want this sort of green field area down here. We can see it easily selects all of that. And I got a little bit of green in there I need to add. And I've got the shadow also is a slightly darker green, so it didn't pick up on that, so I'm just going to click on that area. And I don't want this interior model, which you can go back to the SketchUp work to see why that's sitting in the background if you don't know why, but it was just there as part of the modeling. And I want to add this to my current selection. It's going to be a little bit difficult to use the magic wand, so I'm just going to go to the square marquee tool here, and I'm going to hold Shift so I get the little plus sign and draw an area around that, making sure not to get my building. Right, so now I've got everything except for my building selected. So in SketchUp speak, what I want to do is I want to go to Select Invert. So I'm going to go to Select up here and go Inverse, or Control-Shift-I, which is a shortcut which I'll use quite often. But when I hit that button, you can see this little train now is only around the building, which means that's what I have selected. So I'm going to go up to Edit Copy. Of course, Control-C would work. And I'm going to come over to this image. I'm going to go to Edit, Paste. And of course, Control-V would work, and you'll notice that it automatically has created a layer for me over here. Most typically, especially if you're getting off the image offline, this building is going to be a lot bigger than it needs to be, and it might be, depending on your image, way bigger. You might only see a tiny portion, if anything at all, of your building. You need to scale it. So let's show you how to scale it down. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Scale. And if I want to make sure I scale this building proportionally, there's two ways to do it. I can either hit this link, or I can hold Shift on my keyboard, which is what I'm going to do. Right? So I'm scaling it proportionally. What I'm not doing is squishing it right one way or making it too wide in one way. That looks funky. Now, the nice thing in Photoshop, if I happen to mess up and I haven't have it set yet, all I have to do is hit that link button again, and it'll go back to proportional. So right now, you don't want your building necessarily to take up the whole image. Right? In fact, some images can look quite nice if the building is rather small. But we want to do some Photoshop work, so I don't want it to be too small. So I'm going to take it, make sure it's maybe approximately 2/3 the size of my building. I'm just going to approximately set it here. I'm going to say that's good, and I can always adjust it later in the next step or two if I want to adjust the size a little bit. And it looks pretty good now. What I'm going to do in the next video is actually make sure we have our perspectives and our horizon line and our vanishing points all set. So as we build this, not only can we set this building in the image correctly, but it'll help us as we add elements to this thing as well. But I'm going to stop this video here, which is just pasting the building into the background.